Okay, so in this video, I will be completing a CTF that's titled Dawn. It is ranked an easy machine. As you can see, I've already completed it, but guess I'll show you like my thought process when completing this particular machine. So, yeah. So while that pretty much sets up, I'm just gonna, so basically I have an alias for my mmap scans, which for the initial one, I just use the SV tag and the SC tab, and also the -A. -A is for aggressive scanning, -SV is to enumerate service versions, and then -SC is to enumerate scripts, basically. Looks like we have an IP address now, so we can just go ahead and start off with an mmap scan as usual. I typically like to also have an all ports alias as well, which is just gonna scan all network ports. So I typically like to have this going on in the background. This is also verbose, so it's gonna show me the output as it's scanning. And as you can see already, you can tell that we have a SMB share open. So we could possibly, most of the time in CTFs, they're anonymous login. So we can just do it SMB client -L to list the shares, and then we just put the IP address, and then alright, as you can see, we have this IT department share, so we can just try to log into that IT department share, and bam, we are in the share. Let's see. Okay, actually, I'll just stay here. Let's just touch a file. We're just gonna create an empty file just to see, because as you can see, there's nothing in this share. So what I always like to do, whether it's FTP or SMB, I like to see if I have write access to the share, right? So I would simply just do put test.txt. And as you can see, it actually uploaded the file. ls, so we can see the file in there. So interesting that we have write access to the share. Okay. All right. We do have a web server as well, but we will just keep in mind that we have write access to the share, and we have a web server, as you can see, on port 80 right here. So we're just gonna go to the web server, and so okay, nothing really interesting here. I typically like to look at the page source just to see if there's anything interesting that we can look at, right? And really nothing here. So we're just gonna see if we can find some, see if this has any subdirectories that we can find. Well, GoBuster, we're just gonna brute force the directories basically. So we're gonna see if we can find any directories on the web server. All right. So -u is just gonna you just specify the URL. -w, you specify a word list that you want to use. So I'm gonna use what I always use, which is the directory list 2.3 medium. Also like to use -x for file extensions, and then just put a good bit of file extensions like that it could search for. Let's see what else. We'll just do that for now, and then we just let the scan go, see if we can find anything here. Yeah, we just keep in mind that we can write to this, so that's interesting. Users, basically, a regular user should not have, someone searching around on the internet and able to log in anonymously to the SMB share should not have write privileges. So that's already a mistake there, but this is a CTF, so if it has the right permissions, I always like to remember that. I typically like to do note taking, but in this video, that would just make the video longer than it has to be. So just gonna go through this walkthrough. We're gonna see if we get anything back from this Go Buster scan. But yeah, at this moment, there's not a whole lot we can do. I mean, we could do a NIC2 scan. Though in my experience, I've never really found anything super interesting in NIC2 scans, but we can go ahead and do a NIC2 scan. See if we get anything back from this Go Buster scan. Okay. I mean, we could speed up the scan, but since we already, you know what, let's actually start another Go Buster scan, and this time we'll just speed up the scan, put 64 threads, right? And then that should, oh, here we go, we got a directory, logs. So I like to go to every directory it finds, so let's see what's in logs. And oh, there's already something here. I mean, you can look at the bytes of these files and tell that they're basically just empty files, either empty files or just files that we don't have access to view, basically. And in this case, it would be the latter. Okay. But we have this management.log file, which is 81 kilobytes. Okay. All right, and this just seems to be a log file, obviously. And we can just look and actually, I like to see what, let's just see what directory we're in. We're in IT department directory, okay. So that's interesting. And then looking through this, it's just, it's a lot of cron jobs that are running. And as you can see right here, it looks like this is executing a file called web control. And it looks like it is the cron job that's running that. And as you can see the time here, 9:05:01, and then let's see, and then it gives it full rewrite execute for permissions for everyone on the file system. But if we look in our share, we see that there's no file called web control or product control, right? But this is still very interesting considering that the cron job automatically executes a file called web control. So what we could do is trick the cron job into running a file that we put on there that basically gives us a reverse shell. So all we do is we can create like a shell script with a reverse shell payload. So we just need to see what our IP address is. Oh, it looks like I have 2 VPNs running. So, which one would this be? I'm gonna try for ton 1. Okay, on port 9001. I typically like to use the NCMKFO payload. It tends to work the most for me. And then what we can do is simply name the file web control, right? So we will be able to trick it into running our shell script. And then we just put our payload in there. Then bam. And then all we have to do now is just upload that web control file. But before we do that, let's actually start listening. I like to use lrep just so I can have immediately out of the box, I can have access to tab and do a couple of other things off the bat. So we just listen on port 9001, and then we need to upload the shell, right? And now we basically just wait for the cron job to actually, and we can already tell it's trying to execute the script since the blinking stopped. That's typically, oh, okay, never mind. We just wait. We wait for it to execute our script. If it does, oh, there we go, we got it. And we have gotten a reverse shell onto the system. So basically it's because the cron job was running, I believe it's running every minute, right? So since it's running every minute, we're able to create our own web control file. And instead of, so there was no web control file in that IT department directory, but we were able to write to the folder, right? Right to the directory. So we were able to upload our own shell or our own file called web control, and it's just going to execute our file, right? So since we now have access, let's get a TTY shell going. So let's stabilize our shell really quick. Okay, we can do which Python 3 to see. Okay, we do have Python 3. I'm just trying to see where, okay, I see where I went wrong. pty.spawn, then dash. All right, so now we're just gonna stabilize our shell a little bit. And then now we're gonna do term equals x term so we can clear the screen. All right, so now we have a stabilized shell. What I typically like to do when I first get on the machine is either look for credentials to log into a different user, or it really depends on how I feel. Sometimes I'll just do a sudo -l, and there we go. We get a command that we can run a sudo, which is very weird. I mean, I've never seen anyone run sudo as sudo, but apparently we can with no password, right? Which means that we could execute sudo as sudo, like I just said, and gain root privileges. I mean, you in this case, you could go to GFL bins, and they'll pretty much tell you how to do it there. Or if you already know the command, you can just type in the command. But in this case, it's just sudo bin sh, right? So sudo bin sh, and now we have root access. If we do ID, we're root, basically. And we just go to root, and from here you could get the flag and get the user flag as well. So this is basically how I solved Dawn. It's a fairly easy boss, and this particular machine is on Offsec. So I know it's not one. I know it's not like super popular like the Try Hack Me or Hack the Bots, but it's made by Offensive Security. So I mean, it's pretty useful, and they have some pretty realistic CTFs on the site. So the only bad thing about the site is that, you know, for free users you only get 2 hours a day to do machines. So but the good thing about Offsec is a lot of the Offsec machines are on Vuln Hub, so you could just spin up a separate VM for you know, download the VM from Vuln Hub and run it locally and solve it. So that also works as well. But you know, in this case we are root. Okay, I can't type, and that's pretty much the video. So this is Dawn on Offsec, and a pretty good machine. So I've been thinking about some other some other CTF ideas to basically do a walkthrough on. So, but anyways, yes, this has been the video, and yeah, I never know how to close these things off, so I'm just going to stop the recording, and that is it. Yeah, thank you for watching.